Prosecution went at a pretty fast clip, getting through 20 some odd witnesses. And then the defense got up. They put on, I believe, 5 witnesses before their final witness. Robert Tellis, the defendant, got on the stand and gave a rambling narrative in his own defense. He laid out a conspiracy theory. He tried to deal with all the evidence pretty much by saying, none of this stuff belongs to me. Everything was planted. Now, when his defense attorney put on the last witness, good to see you here, Jeff. Glad you could join me. When his defense attorney put on the last witness, we had learned that there were calls and text messages and things that his phone, that Robert Tellis's phone was receiving on the day of the incident. And by the time the last witness was put on, it seemed as if the vast majority of all of that incoming communication to Robert Tellis's cell phone on the day that this crime took place was junk mail, spam. That's the way the defense attorney left it. Then Robert Tellis took the stand, and as he was giving his rambling narrative, hey, good to see you, Miss Carol. As he was giving his rambling narrative, Tread, you're back. It's wonderful to see you, Tread. I'm so glad you could join us. We're not running for the hills, Tread. We are so happy that you are here. As he was giving his rambling narrative, Robert Tellis gets into every single one of these incoming texts and emails and calendar. And this is what he says. He says, look, at 8:48 a.m., I was still at home. I got a text from my daughter, and I responded immediately. Then, at about 9 a.m., he gets a phone call from his wife. I'm sorry, 10:36 a.m. He gets a phone call from his wife, a text message from his wife. It has a pic of his daughter on it. He doesn't respond to the text. Immediately thereafter, he gets a call from his wife. He doesn't respond. This is all in his phone. A little later on, he gets several calendar invites. This is around the noon time. He doesn't respond to those calendar invites. Somewhere around 1 p.m., he gets a call from the vendor of his daughter's diabetes supplies. He says on the stand, I don't know why I wouldn't have responded or wouldn't have answered that call. Maybe I was in the shower. You see, according to him, he was at the gym. He was at Planet Fitness starting at about 12:09 p.m. on the day that Jeff Gehrman was murdered. He says he spends about an hour at the gym, and maybe around this 1 o'clock time, somewhere between 1 and 1:30, he was in the shower when this phone call comes in. Now, even though he was in the shower, when he gets out of the shower and gets his phone, he's assuming he was in the shower, but he gets his phone, he doesn't call the vendor back. His wife sends him another text message at 1:26 p.m. and he says, I didn't immediately respond. You know, I personally don't respond to text messages immediately. Now, this is the same guy that we've learned was on the rocks in his relationship because of all of these newspaper articles that have been coming out, basically pointing to him having had a relationship with someone in his office, an extramarital relationship that he took the stand yesterday and admitted to having. He admitted to cheating on his wife. So he's on the rocks in his relationship, but he's not answering his wife's calls. He's not responding to her texts. And then the prosecution takes over. And the prosecution does a great job of eviscerating pretty much everything that Mr. Teller said. But then at the end, at the very end, that's the part I want to talk about. The very end, the prosecutor identifies Robert Tellis as a tech guy because Robert Tellis said he was a tech guy. He says, "You're a tech guy, right? You know how to use phones. You know how you use Google phones. You use Apple stuff. You're techie." He says, "And your wife has a Apple Watch, right?" Yeah. Gives them pictures. We have no idea what's on these pictures. And the only person that has taken the stand in this entire case who can possibly authenticate pictures of Mr. Tellis's wife's Apple Watch is one Robert Tellis. Now, the prosecutor's already gone back through everything that was in Robert Tellis's phone, all the text messages from the day of the murder that were in Robert Tellis's phone. And he points to his wife's Apple Watch. Robert Tellis says, "Yep, that's my wife's Apple Watch." And somewhere in there is a text message from his wife. Right after she sends that initial text message with a picture of his daughter and then calls him. And he says, "I was out on a walk. My wife was at home. I was out on a walk. The reason I didn't respond to the phone call is because I was about to walk back in the door. There's no point in me answering the phone if I walk back in the door. I said, 'Hey, honey, I'm home.'" But there was a text. His wife sent him a text saying, "Where are you?" Now, on the surface, that means he didn't tell his wife, "Hey, honey, I'm going for a walk," even though his wife was home and he was just walking around the neighborhood. Before he left, he didn't say, "Honey, I'm going for a walk," because then she wouldn't have texted him and said, "Where are you?" She'd have already known he was going for a walk. But that's just on the surface. Underneath is the fact that somebody deleted this text from Robert Tellis's phone. Now, Robert Tellis is trying to tell us that this is all a conspiracy. All the evidence was planted. All the pictures in his phone of all these cars driving up and down the street were planted there because he didn't do it. He didn't look up Jeff German's house. He didn't do any of this. He had control of his phone. He admitted he had control of his phone. So we have to believe, in order to believe Robert Tellis, that one of these conspirators who plotted to kill Jeff German and frame Robert Tellis deleted the text message that his wife sent him saying, "Where are you?" out of his phone. Now, the prosecution can present Robert Tellis's phone information in their case in chief because somebody extracted that information, and the expert who extracted it can say, "This is what I extracted." So had that text message been in there, the jury would have been able to see it during the prosecution's case in chief, and then that would have helped to convict Robert Tellis. So if a conspirator had deleted that out of the phone, they would have been hurting their chances of convicting Robert Tellis. So why would a conspirator delete that out of his phone? And even if they had this picture of his wife's wrist with the Apple Watch on it, the prosecution would not have been able to put that into evidence during their case in chief, because the only one who can tell us that that is a picture of his wife's watch is Robert Tellis or his wife. And his wife can't take the stand because Robert Tellis has spousal immunity. He can say, no, my wife can't testify against me in this case. So the prosecution wouldn't have been able to get that piece of evidence in. They had no way of knowing whether or not they would be able to get that piece of evidence in, because they don't know whether Robert Tellis is ever going to take the stand, because he doesn't have to. They can't call him. So why would a conspirator delete that text message? And so the conspiracy falls apart. All because Robert Tellis decided he was going to delete the one text message that said, "Where are you?" Because that text message destroys his alibi. He couldn't have been at home. Not if his wife was at home, because then she'd have known where he was. He wasn't out for a walk, because she'd have known he was out for a walk. And the very fact that he deleted it, even if we believe everything else, the very fact that he deleted that single text message means he was trying to hide something. So today we're going to hear the end of Robert Tellis's testimony, and perhaps this whole thing is going to be over, and we may even get a verdict today. We'll see. Court has started. I'm going to be quiet so that we can hear what's going on now. Thank you all for joining me. Let's have a look.
Come to order, be seated, please.
Does the state stipulate to the presence of the panel? Mr. Jackson?
Yes, Your Honor.
And it's my understanding the parties are going to call a witness out of order.
That is correct, due to travel accommodations.
Okay, Mr. Hampton?
State calls Detective Cliff Mock. Give me 1 second, Counselor. And if you'll please remain standing, Detective. Face the clerk, raise your right hand. Thank you.
You do solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in this action shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
You may be seated. Please state and spell your first and last name for the record.
Clifford, Clifford. Last name is Mogg, Mogg.
So it doesn't look like Robert Tellis is going to do his own redirect. So we're not going to get another narrative. The state is recalling Clifford Mogg. That, I believe, is their expert with respect to the pulling of all of the surveillance camera footage from around the neighborhood. So let's see what he's got to say.
Thank you. Sir, I want to turn your attention to September 7th, 2022, probably about 9 o'clock in the morning. Do you remember where you were around that time?
I was at Mr. Tejas' house preparing to execute a search warrant at that location.
Did you have an opportunity to at least interact with Mr. Tellis' wife, May Ishmael?
I know her as Mary Anaya de Tejas.
Okay. On that day, do you end up taking a couple of photographs on that day?
I did.
Okay, what did you take a picture of?
So during the interview with Mary, I learned some information that I felt would be important to the investigation, namely a text.
Well, I don't want
So yesterday, when those photos came into evidence, remember I said somebody has to authenticate the photos, and it's usually the person who took the photos that has to authenticate the photos. So it looks like because of that objection that we had yesterday from defense counsel, the state is trying to make sure that if this is appealed, if Robert Tejas is convicted and his defense counsel appeals, they can't use the fact that those pictures came into evidence as one of their bases for appeal, because they're going to essentially re-authenticate these pictures, because Clifford Monk is probably the person who took those photographs.
to get into the substance. Just did you take any photographs?
I had crime scene investigators take a photo.
Okay. I want to show you what's been already admitted. States 379 through 387. Are these those photographs that you had taken or directed to have taken?
They are.
Okay. Publishing 379. This is the first in that series of photographs, is that correct?
That's correct.
I have no further questions for this witness.
Yes. Take a moment, Mr. Monk. May I see this?
Sure.
Turning your attention to State's Exhibit 379. You took a series of photographs, correct?
I had a series directed to be taken.
At your direction, a series of photographs were taken.
Correct.
And that would include various text messages that were alleged to have occurred between this phone and another phone, that phone belonging to Mr. Tellis.
Yes.
These were addressed yesterday through the course of Mr. Tellis, and it's funny, you have referred to him as Tejas. I've spoken to him as Tellis, but it's Tejas apparently as well, but the defendant in this case.
Okay.
And there is a line of questioning as to whether or not the communication between these two, when I say this is a phone, I mean this is an Apple Watch, correct?
That's correct.
And that there was a text message or an SMS message deleted, correct? Are you aware of that?
Deleted from.
On the part of Mr. Tellis's phone.
I'm gonna object. I think that misstates the testimony, or at least the question posed.
You're asking if he did?
If he's aware of it, yes.
Okay, you can answer.
I was not privy to going through the download of Mr. Tellis's phone. I had heard that there was a text message deleted, but I had never seen it.
Okay, so what we have here is basically whenever you have SMS messaging, text messaging, it's generally how that's referred to. Obviously, you have a phone or an electronic device that receives it. Let's say Mr. Tellis's phone, and then the phone that it's sent from, or the device that it's sent from, which is presumably this Apple wristwatch, correct?
That's correct.
Did you ever take the actual physical phone from Mr. Tellis and review whether or not these images actually appeared on his phone?
I did not do that. That was not part of the investigation that I was involved in.
So then we're confined to drawing a conclusion at this point in time that when you see a certain message on this device, the Apple wristwatch device, but then it doesn't appear on an extraction, and then an argument is made, well, it was deleted on his side. We're basically comparing the actual device, the Apple Watch, versus an extraction, correct?
Yes,
You familiar with Cellebrite extractions?
I am familiar with Cellebrite extractions, but that is not in my area of expertise.
Was there ever a discussion on your part concerning a timeline extraction concerning Mr. Tellis's phone?
I know what a timeline extraction is in Cellebrite and how to use them, but again, I didn't conduct the download of Mr. Tellis's phone, nor did I review the contents of the download.
If I were to show you from what's been provided from the state, the timeline extraction concerning Mr. Tellis's phone, would you recognize it?
I could try to look at it.
Let me approach the clerk and have these marked. That's exhibits. Let me approach the witness. And I'm approaching you, it's been marked as Defense Exhibit L3. And if I represent to you that this is the timeline extraction taken from Mr. Tellis's phone, would you have any reason to disagree with me?
No.
I'd move at this time for admission of Defense Exhibit T3.
No, it's L3. just
L3, I'm sorry. Permission to publish. Let me approach the witness. Is there a light here that? I'm somewhat of a Luddite, but can everybody see that?
There is a light.
There we go, that's better. Here we have Cellebrite, it's the extraction report. To your knowledge, this extraction report was done by Mr., is it Hesefetch? Am I killing his last name?
Who?
He did we heard from him
Oh,
last week.
Detective Hovanek?
Havanek, pronunciation, Tellis, Tejas, Havanek. This, you would agree with me, this timeline extraction, this is a more in-depth extraction. This is, obviously you can access through various portals, information that's contained within the cell phone, correct?
Again, that's out of my field of expertise. I'm familiar with the Cellebrite extraction reports, and that's about the extent of it.
Here we have this column, deleted column. You see that?
Correct.
And we have a deleted column concerning a much earlier timestamp of 4/14/2020. I told you that has nothing to do with this case, fair to say?
Correct.
And then we have this, and it says deleted. And then here we have these instant messages incoming, and we have times. 9/02/2022, 10:36:02, correct?
That's correct.
And on the right column, unlike the first one, where we see deleted, the entry on this Cellebrite extraction does not contain the term deleted. Fair to say?
It doesn't contain the term yes.
And again, to your knowledge, and actually, yes, obviously we had you taking photographs of this electronic device, which was presumably on his wife's wrist, fair to say?
It was.
But we don't have any photographs to be provided for you or the foundation laid concerning the photographs taken of Mr. Tellis's electronic device, his cell phone, correct?
I didn't have access to his cell phone, nor did I do the download, extraction of his cell phone, and it's beyond my area of expertise to testify as to how the downloads are conducted, what would be deleted, how you would see it.
You're aware that a cell phone obviously was seized, and obviously it was analyzed by the Metro, the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department.
I'm aware of that.
And finally, it's fair to say that your primary responsibilities in this investigation concerned surveillance videos, ring cam videos, security videos, correct?
That was not my only primary job. That was one of them. I also interviewed Ms. Tellus, and I assisted in the execution of the search warrant at his house.
Did the Tellus home have a ring camera?
It did.
And did you collect or extract any information, any data that was on the ring camera?
I did not. I know our digital forensics detectives were at the execution of the search warrant. They would have done all of that work. That wouldn't have been anything that I would have been involved in.
Obviously, you would agree with me that the ring camera at the suspect's home would be significant to the investigation in this case, based upon your training, experience, your knowledge.
It would, but sometimes it captures things, sometimes it doesn't. Depends how long it is, it overwrites. It depends whether you have the service as to whether or not things are stored on the cloud, how long they're stored. So there's a lot of variables that go into a ring camera.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Anything else from the state?
Just one question. There were some questions about the ring camera. Do you know when that camera, do you know when those surveillance cameras were put up?
I believe Ms. Tellus told me that the camera on the front of the garage was put up or purchased somewhere around September 5th. But other than that, I don't know when the ring camera was put up.
Thank you.
Just so we're clear, we're not talking about the surveillance cameras, up above the garage. I'm talking about the ring camera. The ring cameras that a lot of people have that are at the front of the door?
That's what I was speaking of.
Okay, front of the door, that, by the handle where you go in, you're talking about that camera? You didn't look
That's
at
the
that?
camera I was referring to when I answered your question, Mr. Draskovich.
Okay, thank you. I have no further questions.
Thank you very much for your, do you have another?
No.
Okay. Thank you very much for your testimony here today. You may step down and you are excused. Thank you very much for coming back today.
Thank you, Your Honor.
And, Mr. Tellis, you can retake the stand.
Can we have just a
Oh,
moment?
okay, that's right. They want you for it. Okay, we're gonna take a recess. During this recess, you're admonished not to discuss or communicate with anyone, including your fellow jurors, in any way regarding the case or its merits, either by voice, phone, email, text, internet, or other means of communication or social media. Read, watch, or
So I'm going to fast forward it here because we are a little behind, but it looks like Mr. Tess is going to retake the stand to, I guess, do his own redirect. Again, that was, it doesn't look like we're caught up now and they're still on break. That was probably the best line of questioning I've seen out of this defense attorney. The rest of his cross-examinations haven't really gone well. He hasn't really gotten much out of any cross-examinations, with the possible exception of those two realtors. So essentially, the Celebrex report has a column for deleted messages, and there's no deleted text on the Celebrex, or Tread says Cellbrite. I don't exactly know what that program is, but there's no deleted text from May on 9/2, according to that report. So it begs the question, did Robert Tejas actually delete a text message saying, "Where are you?" But it does nothing with respect to the existence of a text message saying, "Where are you?" So it may not eviscerate in the jury's mind the conspiracy, because eviscerating the conspiracy would rely on Tejas having deleted the text. But it does cast doubt on his alibi, that he was at home this entire time. His wife texted him allegedly from her home saying, "Where are you?" And all he was allegedly doing was walking around the neighborhood. He was on a walk. So I typically don't leave my house without telling my wife where I'm going. And if she texts me and says, "Where are you?" it's because I've been gone longer than she was anticipating me being gone, based on where I told her I was going. I can't imagine that he went for a walk without her knowing that he was going for a walk. And he was apparently not gone for that long of a period of time, because he responded to a text at 8:48 a.m. from his wife. I'm sorry, from his daughter. And he said he was at home at that point. And it's now 10:36. So we're talking about an hour and 50 minutes later. And he's not responding to texts from his wife because he's returning from his walk around the neighborhood. So he wasn't gone that long of a period of time. We don't know exactly when his little jaunt around the neighborhood allegedly started. But I don't see that it would have lasted so long that his wife would begin texting him, especially considering that, well, all the cars are in the driveway, right? Because he didn't take the car on his walk. So she knows he's still out on his walk if all the cars are still there. So it still calls into question that alibi. Now, Tread, I want to point out another thing you missed yesterday. Mr. Tejas was trying to deal with the shoes. And in trying to deal with the shoes, the evidence of these shoes that he has, he was kind of saying, I don't buy name brand shoes. He didn't exactly say that, though. He says, "I don't wear name brand shoes in the office." Then he tells us why he doesn't wear name brand shoes in the office. And I've gone back and looked at some pictures of Mr. Tejas, because he says, he asked the judge, can he stand up? And when he asked the judge, can he stand up, the judge eventually gives him permission to stand up, and he takes off his shoes and he says, "Now, I'm 6'5.5". And I put risers in my shoes to make myself taller. And I was a little shocked because he didn't really look like he was 6'5". And if you're 6'5", why are you putting risers in your shoes to make yourself look taller? And he says, it's a vanity thing for me. I just want to be a little taller than I am. I have to imagine that was an error on his part. He probably meant he's 5'6.5". Because there's absolutely no way that everybody in Las Vegas, Nevada is a giant. And when you look at people standing next to Robert Tejas, if he's 6'5.5", they are giants. his defense attorney is at least a half a foot taller than him, maybe a foot. That puts his defense attorney at, he's probably half a foot taller than him. That puts his defense attorney at 7 feet tall. The county sheriff that's in the courtroom is at least a foot taller than Robert Tejas. That would put him at 7.5 feet tall. But his wife, is his wife 6.5 feet tall? Because in this photo, it looks like she's about the same height as him, maybe a little taller. There's no way he's 6'5.5". So he had to have made an error. But in dealing with his shoes, not only did he confine the wearing of non-name brand shoes to in the office, he's trying to get the jury to believe that he doesn't wear Nikes. And then the prosecutor gets up, Mr. Hamner, who's doing an excellent job here. He gets up and shows Robert Tejas a picture that we've all seen from prior testimony, a picture that was taken out of his phone of a gray shoe that looks exactly like what the suspect was wearing. Robert Tejas says, "Yep, that's my shoe." Says, "That's mine." Right after he's trying to convince the jury he doesn't wear name brand shoes because he puts risers in all his shoes, and you can't put risers in name brand shoes. He says, "Yeah, that's my shoe." Hamner says, "Well, this picture was taken a couple weeks before the murder." Yep. Yeah, it was. But that shoe that was under the couch that looks just like this one, that wasn't yours. Nope. Wasn't mine. Wasn't mine. Tejas taking the stand was probably the worst thing Robert Tejas could do to try to convince us that he didn't commit this crime, because his testimony is all over the place. Mortal Clown, it's good to see you. Movie Mood, thank you for joining us. Natalie, I haven't shouted you out. Thank you for joining us again. I'm so glad you all are here with me so that you can see with me what happens when you don't take the advice and counsel of your advisor and counselor. What happens when you don't defer to your defense attorney strategy? Not that his defense attorney was going to be able to get him off. And that's assuming, of course, that the jury finds him guilty. But his testimony certainly has not helped. This whole thing is a conspiracy. DA Hamner started naming people that are involved in this conspiracy, and Tejas didn't know what to do when he was asked specific questions about who he was alleging was involved in the conspiracy. He thinks Rita Reed may have been involved, but it's doubtful, but he's not ruling it out. Clifford Mogg, the guy that was just on the stand, he's involved in the conspiracy. He conspired with others, including people at Compass Realty, to murder Jeff Gehrman. All in an attempt to frame Robert Tejas. DA Hamner says, so Compass Realty is involved in the conspiracy to murder Jeff Gehrman, and that's the very person that cost you the election, that made it possible for Compass Realty to continue doing business with the public administrator's office. So he's just collateral damage. They're just murdering Jeff Garriman even though he helped them. DA Hebner is so confused about this conspiracy, and he wants the jury to be confused too, because it's a confusing line of reasoning that would lead one to believe that all of this is a big conspiracy. He says, so the crime scene analysts, they planted the DNA evidence, so they're involved in the conspiracy too. The detectives that were in your home, that they planted the evidence, they're involved in the conspiracy too. His response was, I don't know exactly who's involved, but yes, anybody who planted the evidence is involved. He's about to take the stand again. He's about to get back up here and tell us some more stuff. Remember, he was taking notes yesterday. And again, remember, I don't know if he got to take the notes to jail. I don't know what they allowed him to have in jail. So maybe he didn't have his notes with him last night, which would be bad because that means he's going to be rambling even more. But let's assume that they let him keep the notes to try to prepare some semblance of a defense here. He's about to go through those notes and give us another narrative of ostensibly why this conspiracy makes sense in his mind and why everything that the prosecution is trying to point out doesn't apply. It doesn't point to him having committed this crime. I imagine that we're going to get testimony much like, hey, I put risers in my shoes, and you can't put risers in name brand shoes, so I must not have name brand shoes except those gray ones right there that I took a picture of a couple weeks before this crime was committed, and that happened to look like the shoes that the assassin wore. D.A. Hamner says, so your theory is this whole thing was done by a professional assassin that was hired by Compass Realty. Taya says, yep, that's my theory. Hamner says, so a professional wore a big straw hat, drawing attention to himself. Purposely drawing attention to himself. Taya says, yep. And he wore an orange vest, further drawing attention to himself. Taya says, yes, I think that was part of the plan. He wanted people to see him so that they could pin this on me. So they were trying to pin everything on you, and the police department is planting all of this evidence in your home. None of this stuff belongs to you. He says, that's exactly right. Hamner says, so why didn't they plant the murder weapon at your house? I mean, clearly, if Compass committed the murder or had an assassin do it, they have the murder weapon, right? So why didn't they plant the murder weapon? That would have been the death knell for this entire case. You'd be going to jail. Why didn't they plant the murder weapon? I don't know, is the response we get. What about that orange vest? I mean, if the police had found that orange shirt that this assassin was wearing in your home, that would have been pretty good indication that you committed this crime. Why didn't they plant that at your house? Again, I don't know. You all been making a big to-do about the fact that there's no DNA evidence inside or outside of your vehicle. Why didn't the police just rub DNA all over the vehicle? I don't know. We have so few answers out of Robert Tellis that it is no wonder that his defense attorney can't come up with a viable defense in this action. Where's he going to pull it from? All the evidence points to Tellis, and Tellis is telling his defense attorney it's all a conspiracy. I don't know what to do with this guy. My only thought is just put him in jail, because we're talking about a man who goes to work with risers in his shoes so that he can be taller. I think that's called a Napoleon complex. This is the same guy that people in his office are saying created a hostile work environment. This is the same guy whose wife called the police on him. Because of a domestic dispute. There's something wrong with Robert Tejas. That's my theory. There's something wrong with Robert Tejas. And for the safety of the public, he needs to be put somewhere. That's what I believe, having been here with you from day one of this trial until right now. I'm just sorry that it took someone being murdered for people to realize that there's something wrong with this man. Mortal Clown says, when he explained the lifts were a vanity thing, his whole life is a vanity thing. Remember, he's self-taught. He was bigging himself up on the stand, telling the jury what a great and smart guy he is. I didn't even have to go to school for this stuff. I taught myself. Self-made man that wears risers in my shoes for vanity purposes. There's really not much that can be said here. Because D.A. Hamner has said it all. Again, D.A. Hamner has put on a masterclass. I almost want to write an email to D.A. Hamner, just telling him I'm a member of his fan club, because the proficiency with which he has gone through every piece of evidence, the proficiency with which he has eviscerated all of the witnesses for the defense. The fact that they have put into evidence now, at least, there's got to be 400 pieces of evidence in this case. And D.A. Hamner knows every single part of every single piece of evidence that the state and the defense has put into evidence. He can tell you the page number that whatever he wants the jury to see is on. Out of 400 pieces of evidence, some of which are 100 pages long, he can cite you the page numbers. He's putting on a masterclass. And I think he said it all that can be said. Robert Tejas is taking the stand again. Let's see what he has to say. It's not just you guys. We don't have any audio yet. I don't know what they're doing. Apparently, they're discussing something. Robert Tejas appears to be reviewing his notes in his lap. I don't know. The jury's coming in, so it looks like we'll be getting started hopefully in the next couple minutes. How done do you all think the jury is? Is every member of the jury thinking the same thing we are? Do they just want this all to end so that they can render their verdict? Because at this point, what can he possibly say that would change their mind?
And nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
You may be seated. Please state your spelling, your first and last name for the record.
Robert Tejas. First name is Robert, R-O-B-E-R-T. Last
We
name
didn't
is
miss anything, though.
Double L-E-S, also pronounced Tellis. Thank you. So, good morning. I want to go over some of the items that were discussed during my cross-examination by Mr. Hamner. So I'll start, I'm just going to go, point by point. So it sounds like I'm jumping around. I'm just hitting various things. So I want to talk about Zach Schilling first and why he was mad at me. But in order to do that, I've got to talk about the way that probate sales were done in my office at the time I was in leadership.
No one cares about Zach. Zach is a sideshow at this point. There's no point in you rehashing this. We also don't need another lecture on how probate sales work. Tell us why we should believe you didn't commit this crime.
So what we did was we went from, before I got there, from one realtor to a number of realtors. The prior public administrator, for some reason, had this relationship with this realtor, and he wanted to just have that guy do all the homes. There were a couple of problems with that. The first one was that oftentimes he couldn't handle the volume of renovations. And so oftentimes a lot of these homes would sit for months. Once in a while, they'd be in danger of foreclosure. But even if they weren't in danger of foreclosure, one of the issues that would occur was that these homes still had oftentimes mortgages going, right? So if we weren't turning those homes around in 6 months, 9 months, a year, all that time, the mortgage was taking a chunk out of the equity. So I wanted to make sure that we were turning these things around faster so more money would be in the hands of the family. I didn't think that, having a sole vendor who would get to it when he got to it was of benefit to the families. The other thing was that, of course, Clark County has this policy of trying to support as many small businesses as they can. And so I was trying to also mirror that too by opening this up. I certainly didn't like the idea of having, one vendor for anything. So what was important, though, for these vendors was that they had access to capital. That's why I didn't have a larger pool as of yet. I had probably, any given time, maybe 5 or 6, just depended. But they had to have access to capital so that they could perform the renovations on the home. And the reason for that was that I wanted to make sure that we gave the families as much money as possible. When you sell a home as is, when it's in disrepair, often it has to be sold for less. Right? And that gives flippers an opportunity to get the house, flip it, and then take the proceeds that would have gone to the family. Now, there's not necessarily anything wrong with that. I just wanted to put that money in the hands of the family instead. And in order to do that, we had this policy where, again, if you want our business, you had to go ahead and have the money to do the renovations on that house. You had to make it move-in ready. So any family could buy it and move right in. They wouldn't have to wait around for anybody else to do those renovations for them. And like I said, in the process, the families themselves got all the profit that might have gone to a flipper. Because of the capital demands of having to do this, 2 of our vendors had more properties than the others. One of them was Brian Horner, and the other was Bob McMaster. Now, as part of Bob McMaster's team, he had Zach Schilling. Bob was the capital man. He was very successful in his prior business. He was, I don't know the extent of his finances, but he didn't need to do the work. He was doing it really for the sake of keeping busy in retirement. But he was the money man, so he was the vendor, right? And Zach was the listing agent. I don't want to minimize what he did, but at the end of the day, those listings were going to that team because of Bob McMaster's capital. And in return for any of our vendors doing this work, instead of getting a 3% commission, they would get a 3.5% commission. And I got approval from the probate commissioner to pay our selling vendor 3.5% while still giving the buyer's agent 3%. So the total commission was 6.5%. And that was pretty much from the get-go during my administration. So at a certain point, for whatever reason, and again, both Brian and Bob were getting a good share of houses. And at some point, Zach decides that he is going to move his license from the broker where both he and Bob have hung their licenses. And he does it without telling Bob that he's going to do it. When Bob goes to move his license as well, the broker says, you cannot hang your license here unless you're going to have deals. Now, Bob enjoyed the renovation side, but obviously he still wanted to make a commission split for the work that he did. So he was not okay with not being able to hang his license, because you have to have, from what I understand, an active license hung somewhere in order to take that commission. So what he ended up doing was finding another real estate agent to assist him, to be the listing agent. Zach was very upset at Bob with this. And then it came to the point where when Zach asked me to give him a large number of houses, I couldn't, because he didn't have the access to the capital. When I would walk houses with him, he would try to minimize the importance of doing this renovation or that renovation, trying to just, again, minimize it so that he could try to get as many houses as he could without getting us what we needed to make these homes move-in ready. And so that wasn't acceptable to me. He still got homes, but he didn't get nearly as many homes as he did before. I think that's what upset him, beyond the fact that for some reason he was still hung up on that Ottawa thing that happened a year and a half before, which I don't know why that was a big deal for him, but he apparently mentioned it in his interview with the police that, that he had that. So, all right. So then I want to move to the supposed electronic evidence that was allegedly found in my phone, or phone image, or what have you. When I was arrested, the police leaked to the media that there was allegedly a shoe found in my house. There was allegedly a hat found in my house. You know, they allegedly found the DNA. They did not leak that they allegedly found this electronic information on my phone or on some image, despite the fact that they allegedly had it at that point. So I can't explain why that was the case. Now, when it comes to these Google Maps shots, again, I'll reiterate that I did not know Mr. Gurman's address. So whoever plugged that in obviously did know the address. And there was a photo that we were shown that showed a video camera that was right across the way from Mr. Gurman's house. You know, I do not engage in crime, but if I wanted to do something while not being caught on camera, and I knew there was a camera right across the way, I wouldn't do it. And which also brings up another point. If I knew there was a camera right across the way, I certainly would find another means of transportation besides using my own vehicle. You know, certainly, you know, I didn't have, I wasn't rich, but I certainly, you know, I did okay enough that I could rent a nondescript car, you know, but I couldn't see myself as the kind of person who would be foolish enough to use my own vehicle to allegedly commit any kind of crime. And let's see here. So again, I don't, I did not know Mr. Gurman's address, so I don't know how anyone could say that I did these searches. And then I didn't know Mr. Gurman's schedule. You know, I did not know Mr. Gurman's schedule to know that he would be home on that day at that particular time. Yet apparently the killer knew. I did not know the layout of Mr. Gurman's home, or what room he would be in, or what, you know, I wouldn't know how to, as I said, lure Mr. Gurman out of his house. But, so, I didn't commit the murder. I don't know how the murderer knew that. I certainly did not. So the person who supposedly took these photos on August 15th, it seems knew that Mr. Gurman had a gray Honda from what we heard yesterday. Yet that same person, or allegedly I, decided to research Mr. Gurman's car anyway after the fact, when this person already knew that he had a gray Honda. That doesn't make any sense. And again, like I said, when you saw that the search term was for, again, Mr. Gurman's address to get to that information on the car, and I didn't know Mr. Gurman's address. Now, also, I did not buy a straw hat. I did not buy a construction shirt. I was fully investigated on my finances. I believe that if I had, that you would see evidence of that. When it came to the police search of my home, I was being detained at the police station. Now, I was not handcuffed. I was seemingly, I mean, because of the fact that I wasn't handcuffed during the entire interrogation, it would seem to me that the officers who, you know, Gaddis and Jappy, who had me in that room, did not fear that I was a danger to them. So I was stuck in that room until the search was done. My wife was sequestered, along with my children, in a room during the search. She was under supervision by a police officer. And there was no body cam video from the search. You know, I have seen numerous cases where body cam video was used during searches, yet it wasn't used during the search in my home. Then I want to speak to Detective Jappy's investigation. Again, Compass Realty had nearly 500 sales over the years, and Detective Jappy was investigating me for 5 months of alleged bribery. And again, the investigative file on me was 100 gigabytes for 5 months of alleged bribery, whereas for Compass Realty, over 500 sales over, or around 500 sales for over years was only 3 gigabytes. Again, just a fraction of the information that was obtained on me in that investigation. And I guess, and you'll have to excuse me, but I'm going to have to, I guess, speak to that relationship that I had with Roberta. During COVID, we got in a position where, again, because of the way that staffing worked, we spent a lot of time together, and we grew close, and we grew too close, and and obviously we have choices, and we made a big mistake. It's something that we both regret. But the thing is that, if Mr. Gurman had not been killed, you would not be hearing about the fact that it happened, that we actually got into that relationship. Mr. Gurman, as I mentioned before, was not going to have he was never going to get any information about what happened between us. The county had redacted, or I should say omitted, anything that might have been personal in nature. So the notion that this was a motive to kill Mr. Gurman was false. He was not going to have any real material to make a more damaging article than he would have already done. So that's, and again, Roberta is a good person, and she loves her family very much, just as I love my family, and we just made a stupid mistake, but that doesn't mean that I killed Mr. Gurman. And I would never engage in any criminal conduct because I respect the law. And I was trying to uphold the law in my position. Right? And certainly I would not commit a murder because I have respect for human life. I don't believe that anybody should have their life cut short at the hands of another person. And so when it came to Compass Realty, I was not a lame duck. When you watch that video from the June 29th, 2022 hearing, you'll see that I was not acting like a lame duck. And you will see that it was after the primary loss. And I still kept fighting. And you'll see during that video that I raised very serious concerns. And these are very serious concerns beyond, again, the issue with the equity and the personal property. These are other things that, again, if you could watch the video, see how the judge was concerned. And again, I had just gotten the authority to do the things that Detective Jappy did not do. And frankly, I believe the public should demand an FBI investigation into Compass Realty. I also have one other item related to Compass Realty. Now, Adam Fenn donated to DA Wolfson in March of 2022. And if you'll recall, at the beginning of March of 2022, DA Wolfson had introduced me to Detective Jappy. Now, when Detective Jappy informed me of the fact that he had found that there was likely theft here. I also found out that DA Wolfson knew as well. And I found out through my conversations with DA Wolfson. Mr. Horvath, in the topmost envelope, the first 11 pages, I have a copy of Mr. Wolfson's campaign report from the first quarter of 2022. I'd like to ask that I please be allowed to have it marked and published.
When he was going through all of this in his head, like what I'm going to testify to on Friday, did it play out better for him in his mind than what we're seeing live and in living color? I don't think this is going well. I mean, starting with another diatribe of how the PA's office works is probably not anything the jury wants to hear. And the rest of this is him rehashing already tread ground. I didn't do it. If I would have done it, I wouldn't have done it this way. I would have been smarter than this. I'm a really smart guy. This isn't going well for Mr. Tellis. I think he knows this isn't going well. His defense attorney definitely knows this isn't going well. Jeff, I think you're right. He's in panic mode. He's trying to convince the jury that Jeff Gehrman never would have gotten any information, any further information regarding his relationship with Roberta Lee Kennett. Those other people in the office had already given Jeff the video surveillance of these two in the parking garage. And Jeff Gehrman was very good at finding out the truth. The idea that he was going to be unable to get communications that are on a public county server is preposterous. Brett, I hope that we hear from the jury after this is all over as well. I want to know if they find him not guilty. I want to know what was going on in the jury room that convinced everybody that this guy's not guilty. But assuming that they find him guilty, I'd like to know at which point during this entire 8-day affair they determined that he was guilty.
Mr. Hamner is the state by stipulation.
Yeah, we'll submit it to the court.
Okay, if everybody's marked on
S3.
S3 will be admitted.
Okay, would you like me to approach you?
Yes, please. Thank you. And so this is an excerpt of Mr. Wolfson's campaign contribution report, the first one of 2022, taken from the Nevada Secretary of State's website by public download. And it shows, and this is the fourth page, which again, you're only going to receive the fourth page of this. It states that it's recorded that on March 26, 2022, Adam Fenn of 8782 Big Bluff Avenue, Las Vegas, Nevada 89148, gave Stephen Wolfson $5,000 for his campaign. I am not crazy. I am not trying to avoid responsibility. This entire situation, well, I'll put it this way, that Compass Realty could move so much with money in this day and age in our city is incredible to me. I am innocent. And, you know, I'm not the kind of person who could brutally murder another man, do it with apparent experience and training, and then go to the gym, and then go pick up my children. I can't imagine being that type of person. I didn't kill Mr. Gurman, and I'm innocent. Sir?
Have you concluded?
I have concluded.
I may approach and get the, and we're moving for admission in case Representative has already admitted this. Thank you.
He's concluded. His final point was apparently Adam
Yes.
Finn
Thank you very much.
gave Stephen Wolfson $8,500 for his campaign,
How are you,
and
sir?
I'm fine, sir. How are you?
he's not crazy.
I just really want to cover some topics. So, you touched on the public records request that, you know, Gammon wouldn't have heard about any, you know, personal communications between you and Roberta because the records request wouldn't allow it, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And so, and therefore, that's why you wouldn't try to kill him, correct?
It certainly wouldn't be a motive.
Okay. But you would agree with me, you're not friends with Mr. Gammon, correct?
No, sir.
He didn't tell you, sit down with you and tell you how he's writing his stories, correct?
He did not.
He didn't share with you what information he collected, correct?
He did not.
And you're familiar that, you know, journalists have things called sources, right?
Sure.
And they collect information from multiple places, correct?
Sure.
Okay. So all you know is that Mr. Gammon had made one personal records request to your office, correct?
Correct.
You don't know what other information he had gathered as of August of 2022, correct?
That's correct.
Therefore, this idea that Gammon wasn't going to be able to write any further article, you don't know that for a fact, isn't that right?
Well, I certainly thought, based on the records request, that he would not.
Right, because you were basing, you're claiming you base it on that limited knowledge, but let's be clear. Journalists have multiple sources that they can collect information from, right?
Sure.
And you knew that as of August 8th, he did intend to want to seek information about you and Roberta, correct?
Right.
You had even told your best employee, Nicole, that I have a fear that these articles are going to jeopardize my ability to have employment in the future, correct?
I did.
You were concerned about even being able to work as an attorney in the city, isn't that right?
I thought it crossed my mind, yes.
Not just crossed your mind, you memorialized it in a private text message to your best employee, correct?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you additionally told her, I am, oh God, I wish I had it in front of me. Let me just see if I can recall this. You were worried about the article. Give me, you know what, can I have the Nicole off in the, I don't want to get it wrong. Yes.
Court's indulgence.
Oh, I remember what I wanted to ask. Sorry, thank you. Now I remember. You told this jury that you claimed you weren't worried when you received the August 8th email from the county that Gammon was looking into it because you weren't worried because you knew none of the personal stuff was going out, correct?
Yes.
But isn't it true just a couple hours later you're writing Nicole saying the exact opposite?
No.
Okay. You don't know. We'll let everyone check the notes on that. But
Sure.
Isn't it true the message that you send to Nicole post-dates the email you received from the county?
Yes, but it was talking about pre-existing articles.
Sure.
And the damage that was done.
That's what you claim.
It's what I claim, yes.
Okay. So, bottom line is, You were so concerned about the articles, you're writing your best employee about it, correct?
I did not reach out to her to do it.
And then 4 days later, there's 130 images mapping out Mr. Kerman's neighborhood, correct?
Not for me, but yes.
And then on the 15th, there's this amateurish surveillance going on, correct?
Objection is characterization as amateur.
I'm sorry, well, I'll rephrase. There's the Popeye surveillance happening, correct?
Again, I didn't do it, but yes.
Okay, and then just after that, we have, as you fully admitted, there are pictures from your desk of all of Mr. Gehrman's personally identifying information in your phone, correct?
And I don't know that to be the case. Again, it
all
could
that-
have been placed there on an image. It
Sure,
wasn't
but you
necessarily on my
fully
phone.
admitted, like, that's my computer, that's my desk. I mean, you told us
It-
that yesterday, right?
It appears, the photo appears to have my desk, yes.
No, you said, that's my desk. You didn't say it appears, you said, that's my desk.
I
Do
thought
you
it
remember?
yesterday, but sure, again,
Thank
same
you.
thing.
And that just happens to be the same month that your expert witness looked into your phone and saw you turned off all your location data.
I object not as to that month, it appeared most of the year
And-
that location was not there, so that
Right, and-
mischaracterizes Mr. Guerrero's testimony.
Sure. Isn't there a slide from August 1st to August 31st of 2022 talking about location data from your phone?
Yes,
And it was a blank slate, right?
and I will get to that in my redirect.
No, you gotta get to it now. Isn't it
But,
true
give
it
me,
was
give me
a
one
blank
moment, please.
slate?
Can you give me one moment, just a second, Ryan,
Just a minute, just a minute.
please? And, okay, so can you give me the
Sir.
question? Okay, hold on
Isn't
just a
it
moment,
tr-
please. Just
Isn't
one
it
moment,
true
please.
that there is a slide produced by your expert that's entitled August 1st through August 31st, 2022, and it literally says no location data. Do you remember that slide?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so that existed, correct?
I don't know that it did, because I didn't take that photo.
No, just your expert did.
Are we talking about the photo or the
Expert did
slide?
not take the photo, so again,
Was it prepared?
Right,
Who
your
prepared
expert, your expert introduced it on his direct examination. You remember that?
I don't know if you're talking about the slide or the photo, sir. I'm trying to get
I'm
clarification.
talking about the slide.
Okay.
Your expert analyzed your location data for the month of August. Do you remember him talking about that on direct?
I said that earlier, yes.
Do you remember him talking about it on cross?
I don't, but I remember him talking about it.
And you remember seeing the slide, and he showed an image showing that there is not 1 ounce of location data on your phone for the month before Mr. Gehrman is killed. Do you remember him saying that?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. And then the second point is, so let's talk about the donation. So Adam Fenn donated $5,000 to Wolfson's campaign, correct?
Yes,
It came from a campaign report in the first quarter, is that correct?
yes,
So that would be the first 3 months of the year, correct?
Yes.
So sometime between January to March is this $5,000 donation, correct?
Correct.
That's 2 months prior to the Gehrman articles, correct?
correct.
Okay, so
And it's also
So
a
no-
few weeks after the introduction maybe between me and Wilson and Jappy.
So you say Compass could move so much money in this day and age, it's incredible to me, correct?
Right.
And what we've heard from you is it's a whopping $15,000.
So what I have found in doing my research on Mr. Wilson's campaign reports is that he's got people who donate to him year over year.
Okay.
So basically, it's a subscription for a get-out-of-jail-free
So
card.
now the DA's in on it too.
I'm just telling you what I found when I've researched, and you can look at the Nevada Secretary of State's website to do the research yourself.
Well, I've got you
That's-
here, sir, so I want to ask you, is DA Stephen Wilson in on the conspiracy to have Jeff Gehrman murdered? Is that what you're saying?
I don't know about that, but I certainly know he turned a blind eye toward crime.
So answer my question, yes or no?
I don't know.
Okay. So but you can't rule it out, right?
Can you rule it out?
It doesn't matter whether I can rule it out. I'm not the one under oath.
I can't rule it out.
Okay, so you can't rule out Rita, you can't rule out Wolfson, you can't rule out Cliff Maugg, you can't rule out the DNA people, you can't rule out anonymous patrol officers. Am I catching this all right? You can't rule out Adam Fenn, anyone from Compass, right? How about
Right.
Cindy Sauerland? Is she part of this too?
I don't know. I can't rule it out.
Okay, so it's all just one big conspiracy, correct?
No, sir, I didn't say that they were all involved. I just said I can't rule out who and who is not involved.
But at the end of the day, you're just the victim in this whole thing. Is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you. No further questions.
Okay, anything else, Mr. Davis?
Yes, and again, when it comes to
District Attorney Hamner just said, at the end of the day, you're the real victim in all of this. And after alleging a conspiracy, not only to frame him, but to murder Jeff Gehrman, this defendant says, yes, I'm the real victim here, not Jeff Gehrman, not the one that I'm saying was collateral damage in somebody's elaborate attempt to frame me. I'm the real victim, not the person who's dead. The jury's going to remember that.
these photos and the notion that there was no location information on them, I didn't take the photos. So whether they had location information on them or not, I'm not surprised they don't have any location information on them. So this point that somehow that shows I'm guilty is just, I don't know, it still makes no sense to me. And then when it comes again to Mr. Wolfson, I did do that research into him, and I did find that around the time that Paris Hilton had picked up charges here in Las Vegas, that I think he opened the door.
Objection is sustained.
All right. So I'm sure that someone will be doing the homework on that. But
And
I
that
think
comment
that's,
is stricken from the record.
and so thank you, Your Honor. I have nothing further for myself.
Okay, anything else?
Based on that, no thank you.
Okay. It looks like we have a question from a juror.
This has gone from bad to worse. Oh, Miss Carol, Paris was already part of the conspiracy. He said it yesterday at some point. He mentioned her name as being somehow implicated in this overall conspiracy. I don't think she's one of the conspirators, but something with respect to her having allegedly committed some crime, I guess, and the DA not doing something implicates the DA in this conspiracy or something like that. I don't know. I can't follow what this man is saying. But this has gone from bad to just a dumpster fire. I think that he just left the jury with the worst possible taste in its mouth for one Robert Tejas. He just said he's the real victim here. That's the worst thing he could have said ever. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do with this. I can't imagine that this
We have
jury
questions from a
finds
juror.
him not
Supports
guilty.
Exhibit number 20. Were you concerned that your wife would get knowledge of the affair before you get to tell her about it yourself, or did she only find out after Mr. Gehrman's murder took place?
She actually did find out beforehand, and I did, unfortunately, I said I made a mistake, and it is what it is. And so no, as far as my wife is concerned, and my family is concerned, they did forgive me for what happened.
Okay, and court's exhibit number 21. How tall are you without lifts?
5'6.5".
Any follow-up from do you have anything else you want to say, Mr. Tejas? Any follow-up?
I don't believe
Based on
so,
those
yeah.
questions?
No,
Okay, Mr. Hamner?
No, you're.
They said, "How tall are you?"
Thank you very much for your testimony.
6 feet 5 inches.
today. And you may step down.
Thank you,
and
Honor.
The jury wants to know: are you really telling us you're 6 feet 5 inches tall?
then- Okay, so the defense rests. Okay, does the state have any further witnesses in rebuttal?
Okay, we'll call call Matt Hovanes. Sorry, Matt Hovanes.
So they're recalling Matt Hovanek. Let me try to find his testimony just so I can remind everybody. Try to do that quickly here.
And if you'll please remain standing, raise your right hand, face the clerk.
You do solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in this action shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
You may be seated. Please state and spell your first and last name for the record.
First name
Didn't
Matt,
find it in time.
Matthehew. Last name Hovanes, Hovanec.
And before Mr. Hamler begins, I have a quick question for Your Honor, just briefly.
Anybody who remember who this guy is? Trying to find my notes on it, but my notes have gotten pretty long at this point. Here we go. I found him. He is the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department commission supervisor of the digital forensic lab. So he processed the digital information. And yes, the state called him. This was their 27th witness. He processed the information on the devices in the investigation. Tellus's Google Pixel 6, Tellus's work computer.
Your Honor.
Sir,
So we're going to have some testimony
talk
about that.
First, just briefly about an extraction report that you had an opportunity to review regarding a timeline publishing 374. Do you see that here?
I do.
This is the one that kind of lays out text messages and phone calls that came in and out of Mr. Tellus's phone. Do you recall that?
I do.
You see how over here on the right we have a deleted column?
I do.
Are there instances where Celebrite, its programming, can capture and notate when, for example, something is deleted? Is that right?
There are.
And what would show up in that column if the program was actually able to collect or catch that deleted data?
Usually there's a red X if it captures the deleted data.
Sometimes it may also say like a red yes or something like that.
Something along those lines.
Okay. In your experience, does Celebrite capture every single time someone deletes data off their phone?
No.
Okay. And so, and do you have an idea as to why that is? Like, why does it sometimes catch it, but sometimes it doesn't?
All goes back to the inner workings of cell phones and how they store data.
Okay. Have you ever heard of the term like marked for deletion?
I have.
What does that mean?
So everything in a cell phone is stored in a database. When you press delete, say if it's an image, a text message, whatever it might be, while you, the user, no longer see that data because you believe you've deleted it, it could still be sitting in that database marked for deletion. So until it's overwritten or actually deleted from that database, it's not technically deleted from the phone.
Okay, and so there may be steps that a user of a phone could maybe take to make sure that it's not just marked, but like truly cleared out of a phone. Would that be fair? Or?
No, the user really doesn't have any access to the database.
So it's just the functioning of the phone,
Yes.
correct? Okay, and just to be clear here, I'm showing what are entries 23, 24, and 25. I'll zoom out just a little bit. So 23, 24, 25 don't have any marks for deletion, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so nothing's been noted there. But you did happen, I can't even remember, did you have a chance to see like the Apple Watch image?
I did.
Okay, to do a comparison, correct?
Yes.
You can't tell us whether or not definitively this, like, do you know if like it's deleted or not? Do you have an answer, a definitive answer on that?
I do not.
Okay, it's just simply, it's not here, correct?
Correct.
So a possibility is it could be deleted, it possibly, maybe it transfers over, it doesn't make it into the phone.
Correct.
Okay, and just to be clear, did you provide us with some information from Celebrite about deleted data?
I did a screenshot from their website.
Okay, I'm gonna show opposing counsel produce any objections to its submission.
Just screenshot, no.
Okay, great. I'm gonna publish, can we request, right. It's been marked, I haven't asked. Permission to make the state's proposed 411.
No, Your Honor.
It's admitted and you get published.
There's those 411.
Yes. Sir, why don't you do this, if you can? Why don't you just read out from the header, just read it all for us.
Starting with deleted data.
Yeah.
Deleted data, mobile device forensics. Deleted data may sometimes be recoverable depending on the level of extraction obtained. The encryption type on the device will determine probability of success. Full disk encryption, file-based encryption, no encryption. Deleted data may be available in the following circumstances. It is not actually deleted, just marked for deletion, any extraction type.
Okay. Another topic. Recipes. Were you asked to search through Mr. Tellis's phone to see if there was any evidence of recipes located in the phone?
I was.
Okay. I'm showing opposing counsel what's been marked as states proposed 399, 400, 401. I'm going to show at least those right now to opposing counsel. I usually previously show, but I'll let you see them. All right. Okay. May I approach the witness? I'm going to show you states proposed 399, 400, and 401. Take a look at those and let me know if you recognize what you're looking at.
Yes, search is conducted.
Thanks. Are these fair and accurate depictions of data that you reviewed and ultimately was extracted out of Mr. Tellis?
Yes.
We're going to ask that states proposed 399, 400, and 401 be admitted.
No objection.
They're admitted.
So, in Celebrite, is there a search box that can globally search everything in a phone?
There is.
I'm actually going to show opposing counsel 398.
So the prosecution has made it so that the jury can still choose to
Looking
believe
at here.
that Tejas
It's
deleted the
basically
text.
Homepage from a cell phone extraction on Celebrite.
Okay, is this a fair and accurate depiction
It is.
of that? Okay. We're going to ask the submission of states 398.
Any objection?
No objection.
It's admitted.
Additionally, I'd like to approach opposing counsel with states proposed 402 and 403.
I don't know where he's going with these recipes.
May I approach? Thank you. Approaching the witness with states proposed 402 and 403. Do you recognize what we're looking at here?
I do.
Are these, what are these?
Extraction reports of text messages.
Okay, and this is in relation to searching for fried rice?
Yes,
Okay. Are they fair and accurate depictions of some of the results that you had?
they are.
All right, we're asking for the admission of states 402 and 403.
No objection.
They're admitted.
Okay, so I want to start at least with 398. What are we kind of looking at here, just so we can see?
Again, that's the main homepage of when you process something in Celebrite Physical Analyzer.
Okay, so this is kind of like the main home screen of Celebrite, correct?
Yes.
I see that your name is here. Is that right?
Is it correct?
Okay, and it's kind of giving the breakdown of what type of phone it is that right?
Correct.
over here in this corner, what is that little box? And it's been cut off. In this
see it.
corner up here, what is that little box?
That's a search bar.
Does that globally search every single category, every inch of that phone if you put in a certain keyword?
It searches all the parse data, yes.
Okay, so I want to first talk about the word recipe. Did you type that word in that global search box?
I did.
Did it produce some types of results?
It did.
Okay. Did one of them involve web history?
I believe it did.
Publishing 399. If we look at entry number 1, how many results were there total?
3.
What is result? What's the title of result number 1?
Air fryer French fries recipe, love and lemons.
Okay, so not chicken fried rice.
No.
What's the date that appeared in the phone?
September 1st, 2022 at 6:07 and 51 seconds p.m.
So not later in the week of that first week in September, correct?
No.
Let's look at the second entry. What's the title of that one?
How to make cauliflower rice, Cookie and Kate.
Okay, so not chicken fried rice.
No.
What's the date on that one?
August 29th, 2022, 7:04:52 seconds p.m.
So not a couple of days after Mr. Gehrman was killed.
No.
Let's look at the last recipe. What's the title of that one?
French basil pesto recipe.
Okay, and what's the date on that one?
August 11th, 2022, 7:53, 45 seconds p.m.
So not a couple of days after Mr. Gehrman's murder.
No.
And if we look at that second entry, you described it, it said how to make cauliflower rice, but the word recipe doesn't appear there. Can you look at the second column?
Yes.
What is the website that was used for that? Read
Is
that out.
cookieandkate.com/cauliflower rice recipe.
All right, so the word recipe ends up appearing there, and that's how the phone, the Celebrite, pulled it, correct?
Yes.
All right. When you did the recipe search, did you also find some instant messages with the word recipe in it?
I did.
Okay. Publishing 401. If we could, please read us the date of when this message is done.
August 24th, 2017, 1:47:37 seconds p.m.
Okay, and in that second sentence or third sentence beginning there, can you just read that out? It's in the second row.
There you can find and post recipes and videos, learn about ingredients and techniques, ask questions, and share your love of cooking and food, writing with other community members.
Okay. Publishing 400. How many? This appears to be kind of instant messages derived between someone by name May and the defendant's phone, correct?
Correct?
So let's look at this first entry. What's the date on that one?
October 1st, 2020, 2:06:36 seconds p.m.
And this deals with dog food recipes, is that right?
It appears to be.
Let's look at the second text message. What's the date on this one?
October 1st, 2020, 2:06:36 seconds p.m.
So dog food recipes again?
Yes.
Looking at this date, what's the date on this one?
June 4th, 2021, 2:57:21 seconds p.m.
Okay, so again, we're not even within the same year as the day that Mr. Gehrman dies, correct?
We are not.
Let alone a couple days afterwards.
Correct.
And this was, so that's that date. Okay, let's move on to the fourth one. What's the date on this one?
June 4th, 2021, 2:57:21 seconds p.m.
All right, so when you did a global search for the word recipe, this is all you could come up with out of that phone, or at least that's all that Celebrite came up with. Is that right?
Correct.
Did you also put in the global search box the terms fried rice?
Yes.
Publishing 402. What is the date on this instant message?
March 16th, 2022, 6:57:34 seconds p.m.
Okay, and what does it say in the message?
Can I get a bowl with teriyaki chicken and fried rice and a side of chow mein?
This appears to be potentially some people with the last name, maybe his children and Mr. Tellis.
Yes.
Turning to the second entry, what's the date on this one?
March 16th, 2022, 6:57, 34 seconds PM.
So again, not even remotely close to the month of September, is that right?
Correct.
Could you please read out what it says?
Can I get a bowl with teriyaki chicken and fried rice and a side of chow mein?
Publishing 403. What is the date on this one?
That'd be March 10th, 2019, 10:08, 44 seconds PM.
Please read out the message.
Fried rice, chow mein spelled incorrectly, lemonade, and teriyaki chicken.
Okay, so this was all that Celebrite could draw up from for fried rice, is that right?
That's correct.
Additionally, did you also run a search for the term Chinese rice?
We did?
This is focusing very well, okay. And what happened when you typed that in?
No results.
Okay, so there was nothing that popped up.
Correct.
All right, thank you, no further questions.
Ross?
Yes, Your Honor, I understand that there will be another detective called after this witness. Could we have him stay for a potential recall?
Sure,
Thank you.
sure. So you don't have questions now, but you
I
don't need
do,
to.
actually. There's a few things that we'd like to address right now. Your Honor, if I may approach the witness. Show me what's proposed at this defense exhibit M3. Could be a property info.
Messages in this cell phone.
Devices.
It does?
Move for admission of defense exhibit M3. No objection.
It hasn't hit home yet, but he's gonna get there.
If I may publish. In reference to what may have been Googled, what may have been searched for or not, we do have a list of electronic devices that were seized as part of this investigation. Fair enough?
Fair enough.
And in addition to this, the Dell Optiplex desktop, at the bottom we have the Dell Optiplex desktop that you basically addressed last week through the course of your testimony. Do you recall that? I believe it was Monday.
I do.
We also have another electronic device, the Samsung tablet in black case, correct?
Correct?
These questions that you were, and then again here we have Dell laptop, correct?
Correct?
In reference to these questions for recipes and the like, these questions and based upon the Celebrate extraction were based upon searches that may have occurred on the phone that was possessed by Mr. Tellis, correct?
That's correct?
Did you make these same searches on these other electronic devices?
I did not. No.
So you weren't looking for these recipes or anything like this on these other electronic devices that may have contained that information?
I was not.
If I may approach the witness. I'm going to approach you with 3 exhibits, if you just give me just one moment.
I don't know that the defense attorney knows where Hamner is going with this line of questioning either. Seems like he's just trying to cover his bases at this point.
Let me approach the witness. Approaching you with defense proposed exhibits O, R, and Q.
That's O3R3.
That's correct. You recognize these?
I recognize recognize, I mean, what they appear to be, yes.
You can tell the jury what they are.
2 of them are examination reports from Magnet's Axiom program. One of them is an extraction report from the cellular phone using Celebrate.
And these reports were prepared by yourself.
Briefly first.
Anybody got any guesses as to where DA Hamner is going with this line of questioning? So I think somehow he's going to, at some point, show some deleted messages and how they show up when they're deleted, how long it takes kind of for messages to become deleted in the phone, perhaps, because he seemed to have kind of tied this line of questioning to the possibility that Tejas deleted that text message from his wife. I can't see any reason that we'd be looking at recipes and fried rice. What good question did he get in, Brett? I missed the good question. I'm thoroughly confused as to where DA Hamner is going. I know he's going somewhere because he hasn't led us astray at all during this entire trial. I just can't see where it is that he's taking us. This little journey he's taking us on. I can't see where it's leading. It looks like Mr. Tejas is considering his future at this point. He's not really focusing on anything, just kind of there. I have thoroughly enjoyed this, though. I hope you all have enjoyed it too. There's several trials that are coming up soon. Anybody got any particular desires with respect to watching any trials coming up? I'm game for whatever trial you all want to see. Otherwise, I'll just pick myself. Well, but Brett, even if I don't think that DA Hamner is worried about whether these other devices show that there's a recipe for fried rice or anything else on them. I think it's all about the cell phone. So getting him to search those other devices probably wouldn't have mattered if this is all about what's on the cell phone. Brett, you want to see the Donna Adelson trial? I'll look into that one. I think you've mentioned the Donna Adelson trial previously. Yeah, you did. You mentioned that when the day that yesterday when Robert Tejas took the stand. I take copious notes in case you hadn't noticed. Movie Mood says the Brian Koberger trial. How long is that one supposed to last, Movie Mood? Any idea? Natalie, you didn't miss much. Glad you're back. She didn't miss much. Right now, what we're doing is we're talking about the cell phone and the allegedly deleted text.
Right. I mean, is there any further questions for this witness?
The Celebrex report.
For the lunch break, no, Your Honor, in reference to.
Anything else from the state for this witness? Okay, I'm gonna ask you to step down. You're not excused yet. You're gonna be, called back. But I think the, district attorney just has further instructions for you, and then we'll have you come back and continue with your testimony. Any other witnesses?
We can call, we can call Detective Gaddis.
Perfect.
They're recalling Detective Gaddis, but the Celebrex report
Are
apparently
you gonna go?
can show deleted data, but according to
Just ask
Celebrex,
the detective to.
it just
take
depends
your
on
file
how long
for
ago
further
the
instructions.
person who deleted it marked it for deletion, because it gets overwritten. And when it's overwritten by the phone, that's when it's actually deleted. But before that, you'll get whatever was deleted, and it'll just say that this was deleted next to it. But after it's been completely overwritten, you're not going to get anything on the Celebrex report. So it could very well be that Robert Tejas deleted this information. And it looks like DA Hamner may be trying to show how long it takes for something to be deleted. I anticipate that maybe he's trying to show this message was deleted. We got the cell phone on this date and started pulling these reports. This message had to have been deleted this far in advance of us getting the cell phone. Otherwise, it would still be there. That's where I anticipate, but we have no idea at this point. We're all just speculating. And now they're recalling Detective Gaddis. She was the lead detective on this entire case. I don't know exactly what they're going to be calling her for. Based on Tejas' testimony, they could be calling any of these witnesses for anything, because he said a whole lot that is immediately refutable.
I can start with photos while we're waiting for the computer, if that's okay with the court.
Sure.
Okay, so Detective Gaddis.
All right, it looks like they're bringing Detective Gaddis in. And Natalie, yeah, we are hungry, so hopefully you did pick up some Chinese food while you were out, and you will be sharing with the entire class.
And if you'll please remain standing, raise your right hand, face forward.
You do solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give in this action shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
You may be seated.
Thank you. Good morning.
Please state and spell your first and last name for the record.
It's Justine, Justine, Gaddis, Gatus.
May I proceed, Your Honor?
Detective Gaddis, in the course of the investigation into the murder of Mr. Ehrman, did you learn how many vehicles Mr. Tejas had in his household?
Yes, there were 3.
And can you tell the members of the jury what those 3 were?
There was the '07 red GMC Yukon Denali. There was a brown, can't remember the model of it, but it was a BMW SUV, and a black Tesla.
Okay, and we've seen pictures, obviously, of the Yukon and of the car stop with the Tesla, and I think there's some search warrant photos of the BMW. In the course of your investigation, did you become, his residence is on Spanish Steps, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
In the course of the investigation, did you learn about a Planet Fitness located on Charleston?
Yes, I did.
And did you ever drive or try to figure out the drive time between those 2 locations?
Yes, I did.
And what is it?
It's about 4 to 6 minutes.
Okay.
Depends on which street you take specifically, or if you get caught at the light.
Okay, so if you were leaving Spanish Steps and going to Planet Fitness, you said it would take about 4 to 6 minutes?
Yes, ma'am.
May I approach, Your Honor? Detective, I'm showing you what's been marked as states proposed 407 through 410. If you could just look through those and let me know when you're done.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you recognize those exhibits as a map of those 2 locations, Planet Fitness and Spanish Steps, as well as pictures of Mr. Tellis's BMW?
Yes, I do.
State moves to admit 407 through 410.
No objection.
May I publish, Your Honor? I'm putting on the overhead on what's been admitted as states 407. Detective, what are we looking at in that photo?
That is a Google Earth image of the area of town that encompasses 9624 Spanish Steps Lane and the Planet Fitness over there at Charleston and Fort Apache.
Okay, and on the left side, there's a couple different routes you can go. Is that fair?
Yes, ma'am.
When you look at this, can you put the mouse or show the members of the jury the location of Mr. Tellis's house?
That's right there.
Okay. How about that elementary school, Piggott Elementary that we hear about?
It's this structure here.
Okay. And then are you able to move the mouse to the Planet Fitness location?
Yes, that is over here.
Okay. And that street, that main street up towards the top of the photo, that's Charleston.
Correct, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
The street that goes in front of that elementary school, do we know what that street's called?
Red Hills.
Okay. I'm putting on the overhead now what's been admitted as states 408. What are we looking at there?
That is the picture of the brown BMW SUV that Mr. Tejas has registered to his family.
And this is 409.
That is the backside view of the same vehicle.
And states 410.
And that is a side profile of the same vehicle.
Okay. Now, the video that we've seen throughout the trial has all been little clips. But for all the video that was collected in this case, was there hours and hours collected from all of these locations?
Yes.
And that was all preserved by yourself and other detectives?
That's correct.
And for the record, Your Honor, all of the long-form video is on state's
witness on the day that this crime took place. So it looks like they are trying to uh, basically tell the jury, look, in all the video, we don't see his BMW at Planet Fitness or traveling in front of that elementary school that we saw that video of on the day of this that this crime took place, which kind of destroys the alibi that he was at Planet Fitness. But let's keep listening.
proposed 372, so we would move that into evidence or offer it.
No objection.
Okay. Now, with regard to this BMW, did you review video from Piggott Elementary School at a particular date and time?
Yes, I did.
And can you tell the members of the jury what that was?
So I reviewed it for September 2nd, 2022, basically at the time that the Denali arrives back on Red Hills Road and then up toward, as it turns towards Mr. Tejas' house. I continued to watch it as well. About approximately 12 minutes later, the vehicle that I believe is the brown BMW comes out of the same area, off the same street, and makes another turn down Red Hills Road, as if coming the same direction that the Denali had just arrived from.
And so, if I'm understanding you, the Denali comes into the neighborhood,
Yes, ma'am?
and then about 10 minutes later, or
I thought it was about 12 minutes.
12
but,
minutes
yeah.
later, you see a vehicle that you believe is the BMW go in front of that elementary school in the direction, one of the ways, to Planet Fitness?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And the state, Your Honor, would now offer 406, which should be a clip of that.
No objection.
And are we seeing the vehicle take a left turn on that Red Hills Drive?
Yes, ma'am.
And the time at the bottom was 12:03?
That's correct.
Thank you very much. I'll pass the witness.
Cross-examination?
Yes, thank you. We've given testimony that the clip of video that you just saw was taken from the entrance of the neighborhood. Where specifically was this video that we just saw taken from?
It was the camera was affixed to the Piggott Elementary School.
Piggott.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
So it wasn't necessarily the entrance to Mr. Tellis's neighborhood, but I mean, it's a couple streets back, fair to say.
I guess we'd have to look at the map to be specific, but it's,
And that was addressed in Mr. Mogg's testimony in the location of Piggott in relation to the neighborhood where Mr. Tellis lives. But, I mean, it wasn't right at the entrance. There was a street that one had to drive up and come around and enter, fair to say.
yes, it's a fairly short distance, though.
Fairly short distance.
Yeah.
Are you aware, in reference to the neighborhood where Mr. Tellis lives, are there other entrances and exits?
Yes, there is one additional that I know of.
Okay. Showing what's been marked as defense exhibit. Okay. Can I represent to you that this is a Google map between two different locations? I don't believe there's an objection to the commission.
Is there any objection to?
No, Your Honor, sorry.
Okay, T3 is admitted.
This is also a Google map.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out where that is. Okay.
Do you recognize these 2 points of interest?
Yes, I do.
I may publish. This little different subject, but we've got you here, so we're going to ask you this question. This is a Google map again, timed distances, the driving. We have this point here, the red point, the Clark County Public Administrator Office, or correct?
Yes, sir.
And that is where Mr. Tellis was working.
Correct.
We've heard testimony concerning the search, I think it was from you on September 8th, 2022.
Yes, sir.
correct? And this other address on West Vegas Drive, North Jones Boulevard, this is the location that you were able to ascertain from photographs, and you had given testimony that you felt that this was a surveillance point. Remember all the photographs of all
Yes.
the various cars? That's that point,
That-
correct?
Yes, sir.
And we have a drive time, there's two, and oftentimes Google Maps, they have different times, but we have 11 minutes and 12 minutes, correct?
Yes, sir.
We have a 4.4 mile distance and a 5.2 mile distance.
Correct.
Course indulgence for just one moment. Thank you, ma'am. I have no further questions.
Any redirect?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Actually, I do.
That's
I'm
okay,
so
go
sorry.
ahead.
Obviously, you were the primary in this case.
Yes, sir.
Of the homicide detail. There'd been testimony concerning these various locations where images were captured, security, ring cam footage, correct?
Correct.
By yourself and others.
Yes, sir.
Specifically concerning Mr. Tellis's home. There had been a discussion with Mr. Mogg concerning his security cameras, and I think you and I had addressed that last.
I know I saw the images of the cameras up and the cameras not up and.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. There was a question, there were security cameras up above near the roof line where they were not there on September 1st, but then later, I think Tolliver had testified, but then there were security cameras up above, correct? That had
Yes.
been later installed, and Mr. Tellis had testified concerning that, but let's talk about a ring camera.
Yes, sir.
A ring camera right by the front door. There was a ring camera there, correct?
Yes, there was.
And was the data from that ring camera obtained?
What was available was obtained, yes.
And what was available?
Oh, I'd have to look back in the case file. I don't remember at this point. I knew there wasn't anything at the particular timing that were basically on the second. There wasn't much video that was found to be relevant.
Okay, so is it your testimony that there was no relevance? And I mean, obviously, did you have a chance to review what may have been captured?
Yeah, the ring video I did.
Okay, and specifically on September 2nd, was there any evidence that you're aware that was recovered from the ring camera that was right next to his front door?
I can't remember if there were clips from the second or not. I just remember that whatever was there, I could tell it wasn't relevant. And that's why there wasn't any clips preserved, or they were all preserved, my mistake. But that's why any clips weren't used potentially in that video synopsis that was provided.
And who would have reviewed the evidence that was taken from the ring camera?
I know I did. I'm not sure who, are you referring to Detective Mogg?
Yes, or yourself. I'm asking, who would have reviewed the contents of that ring camera?
I did, and I know he had it available to him with the video production, so I could assume one way or the other, but I can't say if he did. I know I did.
Okay, and if he had given testimony when asked that same question, he talked about the security cameras up above that were installed later, but he didn't appear to have any memory of anything that may have been reviewed from that ring camera.
Okay.
All right, and you don't have an independent recollection of what may or may not have been recovered from that ring camera?
I don't, I'm sorry.
Okay, no further questions. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Any redirect?
Yes. When you say not relevant on the ring camera, what does that mean?
We knew what time, or had estimated the timing of when the red Denali would have left, when it would have arrived back. And there was nothing at those timing marks, or really in between that time either, showing that Mr. Tejas was home or that anybody else was coming and going.
So it wasn't informative as to the whereabouts of Mr. Tejas at any time?
Correct.
Thank you.
And when we talk about any time, we're talking later in the day,
I'm talking on the second.
on the second. So outside of that, you have no memory of anything that may or may not have been captured on that ring camera on the September 2nd?
I don't, I'm sorry, sir.
Thank you. No further questions.
Anything else? No, Your Honor. Okay, thank you very much for your testimony here today. I step down, and you are excused from your subpoena. Thank you for coming back today. Does the state have any further witnesses waiting?
We do not, Your Honor, I think, we may be recalling, or Mr. Goskevich is not,
Okay, all right, so we'll break.
So it
this
sounded like she
session.
said that
During
the
this recess, you're
BMW
admonished not to discuss or communicate with anyone, including your fellow jurors, in any way regarding the case or its merits.
the BMW left the home about 12 minutes after the Denali arrived back at the home or in the neighborhood. The BMW left the neighborhood about 12 minutes after the red Denali arrived back in the neighborhood, and that was at 12:03 p.m. Is that what she testified to? I thought that he ultimately arrived back home somewhere around 2 p.m. But I could be mistaken in that. But it looks like they're trying to show that the red Denali, the BMW being at Planet Fitness somewhere after 12 p.m. is of no consequence at all. But I'm not sure. I don't know exactly where the state is going with all of this, but I'm sure we will find out after this recess. It looks like they have taken a break for lunch, and we are going to do. According to Court TV, they are taking a break until the last witness arrives. So I don't know how long that'll be, but I think we can all take a break for lunch, and I will put up another invite. I hope you all join me after the break. Thank you for joining me for this morning session. For now, as always, my name is Nathan Saunders, and this is The Legal Good.